All right. Mr. Bokoru, let me come to you. Bayelsa State, as an oil-rich state, has just 8 local governments, but no evidence of development all this while. Your candidate is a former governor. What can he do differently this time?
My candidate was governor for 5 years, and during his time, he had some very key and innovative changes in the state. He had a clear vision, a clear path, a clear roadmap that if subsequent governors had followed, we would have gotten somewhere. Before him, there was Goodluck Jonathan, who had a plan. But after Sylva's governorship, unfortunately, we had governors that were very aloof to what governance was. And in fact, instead of taking us further, we faced a pathetic and poor retrogression. This time around, Sylva, more mature, has served as Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and has seen the world, will do even more and even better than he had done before. So this time around, you can see his performance as Minister of State for Petroleum. The gas, we did a gas revolution. We tapped into Nigeria's huge gas reserves. We passed the historic Petroleum Industry Act, which no previous government had done. Of course, working behind the former President Buhari. And then, there was this revolution that happened in the oil and gas industry. Taking from that cue, we can tell what Bayelsa has to gain from his time next year as governor. So there's a lot of positives to look out for. There is a lot of potential, and Bayelsans from every specter of life is very excited and it's anticipating that moment.
So in what specific areas do you think the current government in Bayelsa State has failed to meet the people's expectations?
Well, first of all, human capacity development is zero because the people make up a society. So first of all, you need to develop the people. On that aspect, it has been very poor. So there's high level of poverty in an oil-rich state like Bayelsa State. And then there's also an infrastructural backwardness that is very apparent to all. If you drive through the streets of Yenagoa, one might be a bit disappointed. It should have been better. And then security. We can see what's happening at Nembe Basambri. We can see what's happening at Kolukumo, Pukuma, and other areas of the states. Bayelsans do not very. In fact, as we speak, there's a curfew at night. People cannot even move at night. It's that bad. It's like a war zone. And then, of course, we have the issue of free speech. Journalists have been arrested indiscriminately by the government. Then, fundamentally, there's no blueprint. There's no clear pathway to progress. A lot of people are at a loss. What are they out to achieve? What is their bright spots? What are the fundamentals of the government? In 50 years' time, what will the Doyediri administration be known for? So you can see that the government has dissolved itself to some sort of a financial cult, where it is out to just make gains from the taxpayers' monies of Bayelsa. In fact, there are credible reports in my press statement today that the state government is planning the 11 billion naira to bribe INEC officials. I'm sure 11 billion naira, if you put it into the states, people will see visible things that they will be grateful for.
Bokoru, these are unsubstantiated information you're giving us. Please do not make these allegations. Did you get
Okay.
that? Please go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's just a report at our disposal. And the world would need to know this.
So all of these sectors you have said the current administration has failed. What is the APC government going to do differently?
Well, we are not coming up with a very robust manifesto. We are coming up with something, with a 6-point agenda, something very simple and easy to manage. We work on human capacity development. We work on gas architecture. We are going to work on agric. You know, Bayelsa State has one of the longest coastlines in Africa. And our waters are one of the richest in, fishery. When Sylva was governor, he bought fishing trawlers. We are going back to that. We are going into rice farming. We are going to revive the economy, industrialize the states. And we are going to become a very responsive government, a government that knows what it has to do, a government that will listen to the people, and a government that will not be very indifferent, a government that doesn't understand. We can't be a government that doesn't understand its role. So those 6-point agenda, we call it the high gaps. And we are going to implement that. And it's very simple. These things are not rocket science.
All right. Mr. Okolubo, let me come to you. I want us to talk about election security. The IGP has deployed 3 DIGs to these 3 states. What impact will this have on security in this election?
Naturally, it's expected that the DIGs are very senior officers. And so now they're going to be heading the state command, and they should bring their wealth of experience in ensuring that the additional police officers who have been drafted to this state are expected to man the areas where there'll be, we call them flashpoints in security parlance, that it's naturally expected that they're going to have people foment trouble and give the voters a sense of security. So it's expected that the DIGs should bring their wealth of experience. And this is the first election that is going to be held under this IG, and he also has to discharge himself equitably to Nigerians and show that he was not partial.
So since 2015, technology has helped consolidate our democracy by ensuring transparency and fairness in our election. But ahead of future elections, how do you advise INEC to improve on this?
It has to be with the review of the laws. The Electoral Act 2022 has to be reviewed. You have to make it mandatory that for votes to count. You have to make it mandatory that results should be uploaded on the IREV. It shouldn't be at the discretion of INEC. That will help a lot because and the beavers would also be. You also ensure that the beavers is used compulsorily in every election, and that makes it more impossible for people to add additional votes where people have not been accredited. It's more of an electronic process if you allow the votes to be transmitted, and you'll record a huge success if that is done. It's not going to only be on the part of INEC, but a lot depends on the National Assembly to come out with Electoral Act 2024. Sorry, Electoral Act maybe 2026 prior to the 2027 election.
So let's also talk about voter turnout. Always low according to facts and figures. How confident are you that we may have a better outing this time?
Well, voter turnout is low because most people feel that their votes don't count. So the voter turnout depends on the confidence you're going to give the voters. When the voters believe that their votes will count, they will come out en masse. But when they see what is happening and they believe that if I vote and I go home and I hear a different result, then what's the use of going to participate in the election? So voters turnout will only increase if INEC does the right thing.
Right. So, Mr. Bokoru, let me come to you. Just as I asked Mr. Okolubo, the IG rather, has deployed 3 DIGs to these 3 states. So, for Bayelsa State, what impact do you think this will have on security?
It's a plus. It will boost the morale of scared Bayelsans. A lot of Bayelsans, especially our supporters, have been a bit worried over the previous weeks, especially with the events that has happened. So with these deployments, it will give some confidence that people's rights, people's lives can be protected. So it's a very positive move, and as a party, we commend the IG for being that proactive.
Right. So let's also talk about voter turnout. How confident are you that we may have something better this time?
Earlier in this interview, I mentioned that this is not just an election, but a revolution. It is a movement. So the voter turnout will be very high, overwhelmingly high, and I expect it to be one of the greatest turnouts our state has ever received.
So you're on ground in Bayelsa State. Talk to us about INEC's preparation for this poll. How will you describe it?
I think it has been fair so far, very fair. They are doing their bits in their own little ways, what they can do, and we expect them to deliver. They seem prepared enough and ready enough.
But what about logistics, which is usually very difficult during election? How confident are you about this time?
Logistics about INEC or about us?
INEC's preparation.
It's what I said. I'm not an INEC staff, but I believe, with what I've seen on ground, I believe that they are up to the task. And this time, we've had one of the best set of INEC staff that this country can boast of. We saw what happened in the presidential elections, where the wishes of the people, came to materialization. We expect same thing in Bayelsa State too. So we are confident that INEC will do the right thing.
Mr. Okolubo, I mean, you know that logistics is usually a problem for INEC during election. What are you expecting this time?
I expect logistics to be a problem in an off-cycle election. This is just 3 states. INEC had all the time to prepare for these elections, and so they should have put all their acts together, knowing full that we have always known that logistics has been a challenge. The vehicles should have been hired before now. The logistics department should have been able to move materials, especially to maybe areas where you have to use speedboats and areas where you do not easily access. These are things that INEC knows in all these regions. So I don't expect INEC to come and cry about logistics, because it's a process that they have been used to, and they have had a lot of time to prepare for it, especially since it's at 3 states.
Mr. Bokoru, in 30 seconds, what's your message to the people of Bayelsa ahead of this election? In 30 seconds.
We have come with alternatives. We have come to our people. We have come to help liberate our state. And that is what we must do. It is our collective responsibility, all Bayelsans. We cannot continue this way. We cannot continue in this, in this very shaky and indifferent governance. So November 11th, I expect everyone. We expect everyone, and we are all coming out en masse, as it is exemplified in the turnout in all our rallies, to go and vote Timipre Sylva.
All right. Thank you so much. I've been speaking